Hello, everyone. So, first and second fear, when it comes to anxiety, is one of the best bits of Claire Week's wisdom, which I love talking to clients about. Because in my mind, it represents the recovery choice point. It's like every sufferer hits the fork in the road many times along their journey of practicing in recovery. It's the recovery choice point, that fork in the road where we get to choose whether we go down coping management of symptoms or recovery. And it's all to do with first and second fear. What do we do at that little juncture between first and second fear? So that's what this video is all about. I'm going to talk to you about what you do with second fear so you can actually take, more often than not, the recovery path in that fork in the road that I've just described. So again, hats off to Claire Week. She's a pioneer with this stuff, and I just wanted to dive into it to turn what she talks about in theory into practice for you to make it a little bit easier, hopefully, to implement. But in order to do that, we've got to understand both concepts. So what is first fear and what is second fear when it comes to anxiety? They both can happen. The first one is automated, and there's not much we can do about it, and that's okay. So first fear is when effectively we're triggered by a thought or a symptom. It can be either. We're probably often not aware of our thoughts or symptoms sometimes. They just happen. And the automatic reaction that we've learned, that we've developed over the years, is one of fear, panic, anxiety, whatever it might be. So you start thinking about work, or having to give a presentation at work, or going into a social situation. A thought pops into your mind, having to just to go outside. It might be that something simple like that for you that's triggering enough. And you've had these thoughts or these triggers before. We've all got different ones. They're all embedded in the subconscious part of the brain. So that 90 to 95% of the brain's power. So how will I cope with the social situation thought comes up unannounced into your brain. You're sitting on the couch watching TV, minding your own business. But again, because of sensitization, that tired, fatigued nervous system, instantly, because you weren't expecting the thought, you get a bit of a shock. You're sensitized, so you're primed to react. And of course, the reaction comes. The heart starts to race. You get a surge of adrenaline. Maybe it's a slow drip of adrenaline, lump in the throat. You start to sweat, hot flushes. It could be really intense symptoms or more minor symptoms. So you get the fearful reaction, thoughts, or the thought itself, and that initial surge, that physiological surge or reaction. That is first fear. That's the first fear that Claire Weeks talks about. And that must be expected. We just expect that to happen because that's part of the learned habit of anxiety, this high alert mode that due to sensitization, which I talk about in other videos, we've fallen into this habit of reaction. Now, when we talk about recovery, we know that these neural pathways of these unconscious thoughts coming up are there. This habit of reaction is already there. So we don't have to try and stop or fight first fear. That's the good news. We know, and you know, that many times, I did it myself over the years. I'm sure you've done it. You just react because, again, these thoughts are in the unconscious mind. They get triggered by a thought, a smell, something you see on the TV, a word, an unhelpful word from a friend, a parent. It doesn't matter what the source is. Often we don't know. That first fear will come in. And there's nothing we need to do about it. We just react. Now, the fork in the road comes in at this point. So when we react, once we are aware that we have reacted, got to find my words today, what do we do? Do we go into a coping sort of white knuckle approach? Do we lock down and just try and grit our teeth and sort of bear the brunt of it, tense up through it until it goes? Or do we implement the tools, methods that I talk about, that Claire Weeks, of course, talked about, and try and float through it? So that's the recovery path. The coping path is where we actually add second fear. The management, the coping, the resistance path is where we just simply add second fear. So the first fears come in. What if I can't cope when I go outside? Your body's already reacted. That's already done. And then the mind starts to engage. And we all add second fear, by the way. It happens to all of us. That's why we're in the anxiety state. Part of what I'm doing with these videos is helping you become aware of that so you can stop adding second fear and take the recovery pathway. So the choice is that once we become aware that we've reacted, at some point we have to go, oh, I just got caught out by that thought. I've just reacted to the what if about going outside. My body's screamed at me a bit. It's given me a reaction to it. And now I'm going, well, how will I be able to cope? Will I ever go outside again? Will I be able to go into social situations? How will I cope at work? What about this health anxiety? Is it something serious? You know the ones I'm talking about. And so once we're aware of that, and you realize you maybe have already added second fear, it's about, okay, I'm going to switch pathways now. Oh, I've just gotten lost in this thought. I've reacted to the difficult physical symptoms, and they are difficult at times. That's okay. But it's just adrenaline fueling these thoughts. I'm not worried about the thoughts. It's just adrenaline. Highly unpleasant, not serious. I know that the adrenaline will always fizzle out and I'll get relief. So I'm just going to, as best I can, accept and allow. So it's when we become aware that we've reacted, the first fears come in. And when we, at the first point in which we become aware, can we remind ourselves what this is, coach ourselves through it, reorientate and go, right, do what you need to do, anxiety. I'm just going to go loose, slow down, allow the thoughts, allow the symptoms, allow the cycle to burn itself out without adding second fear. When we add second fear, we go into all the what ifs, and that just keeps the process alive. It keeps the cycle of symptom thought and each one triggering the other. So we get even more tense, more adrenaline surges. And so that's when we're going to the coping pathway. We try and think our way out of it. We try and manage it. Well, if, I'm sure I'll be okay in a week. Oh gosh, no, what if I'm not okay in a week? And we get into a bit of a battle and we tense up against it. That releases more adrenaline and we can feel the tension because we're sensitized. And there's no point trying to think your way out of it when we're in that state. And so that's why I call it the coping resistance management pathway. Because you do always get relief from how you feel. You always have done and you always will. The question is, are you kind of white-knuckling through it, holding on for dear life, trying to work it all out, tense up against it, add second fear to the first fear, or through all the work you've done, by watching the videos, you've read Claire Weekes, when you have the awareness, you reach this fork in the road, you are aware of what's going on. So this higher voice of awareness comes in and goes, oh, I just reacted. I've just added second fear. No problem. I'm just going to go allow, go loose. This is just adrenaline. I know what this is. I'm going to now take the path of least resistance, allow, go loose, and I'll let the cycle, the anxiety, the thoughts, the symptoms do what they need to do for as long as they need to do it. It's going to go loose, slow down, and get on with my day. So we're doing a mini reset, and then we're switching to the recovery pathway. It's like when you're driving down the highway with your sat-nav. I don't know if anyone uses a sat-nav anymore. And the sat-nav comes to an exit on the freeway or the highway, and you can see the sat-nav, the car going up the ramp. And so it's like you've realized you're going up the ramp, the coping ramp, the resistance ramp, but you have the power over the sat-nav. You're in control, and you can mentally switch yourself back onto the direct path to recovery, which is allowing and acceptance. And so it doesn't matter how far off the ramp you've gone, you can always pull it back in an instant through your awareness. And that's how we recover. The more times we do that over and over, we start to build the neural pathways of awareness. You've got the neural pathways of reaction, of coping, holding on, And the more you start to build in these neural pathways of awareness of the recovery pathway, it gets easier. Instead of the default reaction being to add second fear, the default reaction becomes awareness, allow, go loose. And many of my clients will tell you that they did that a lot, the resistance pathway, and over time they've started to build the recovery pathway neural pathways. So they're taking the recovery fork in the road, and it gets easier and easier. They stop having to actually think about it. You don't have to work as hard to do it. So if this is new to you, it feels hard, it will take a bit of energy, that's okay. But it's just practice like anything else. I've got the video 4 of the Anxiety Cure series about letting it all happen. That's one way to go down the recovery pathway, plus the floating live guided practice as well to help you shift out of second fear and down the recovery pathway. I hope that makes sense. As always, if you've got any questions, let me know. But otherwise, I hope to see you again very soon. Take care.